Watch out for my beverage. You have a fuzzy. I'm not being weird, but it's on Russ now.
You got yours? Yeah. Right. That's terrible. Okay, works.
Excellent, we're live.
Hey guys, it's Russ and Ryan from AMS, and we had a chance today to sit down with Thomas Blug from BluGuitar and talk about his company foundings, his passion for all things guitar and tone. We hope you guys enjoy.
Thanks for joining us, Thomas. We're sitting here with Thomas Blug today at AMS. Appreciate your time.
I think he
Thank
forgot
you
we were here.
for having me.
Yeah, just sit here and play.
Well, Thomas, you're going to walk us through your product line today, give us kind of a soup to nuts on everything going on.
Sure.
One thing we can start off with. So I'd like to know a little bit more about your background, going into this and how BluGuitar all came about, because you have a really rich history that leads up to where you're at today.
Yeah. My first hobby was electronics at the age of 11. Then I discovered the magic of the guitar age 13. Then I built my first own amps, because we had those electronic magazines in Germany, and they had like fuzz boxes and stuff that you can build yourself. And I was, of course, teenager, young, built my first amps myself, confiscated some of the furniture of my parents, put in 12-inch speaker. And this was my first rig. I found out it was okay for the very start. And then I heard that this is not sounding like the real deal kind of guys, like the Santana and Ritchie Blackmore, my heroes. They sounded better than my homemade guitar amps. And then I decided to buy the best amp in the world. And I asked people, what is the best amp in the world? And they said, it's a Mesa Boogie. This was back in the 80s when I was a teenager, had no money, and had to work a long time to make the money to buy a Mesa Boogie in Germany. I bought the Mesa Boogie. I liked it for certain sounds, but I never got my Marshall sound out of it. So I started to modify my Mesa Boogie, having a Mark IIB with adding a third channel that is kind of in between. Okay. And then I learned the hard way, this is not even a Marshall, so I bought a Marshall. Then I started to modify Marshalls, and then I became a session player in Germany, and I got hired by the Hughes and Kettner guys as a demonstrator. I played their product and I was not so happy with the sound. So after my demo, I came back to the guys in the factory and was connected to the technician. And I ended up being a team member for 27 years, designing a lot of amps with them, and a lot of my concepts even. I invented Tubeman, Triamp, all the tube tools. We're talking Rhodosphere. Nobody back in the days, 95 that was, what are you doing with a Leslie simulator? Pedal, And I had all these crazy ideas because I was a session guy that needed a variety of sounds in the studio, and my Leslie was something that I was using as a specialty. And they said, this guy has the sound. And so there's this kind of history. And then at a certain point, I decided to found my own company, BluGuitar. with that vision of creating products that are super compact and lightweight. As being a gigging musician myself, I came from the nice heavy Marshall tops or using Kettner tops. And in the biggest bands I played, I even had a backliner that came to my living room, picking everything up. I just marked the cables with numbers and colors, and they put it together, and I went on stage. But the moment I quit this industry, I decided, well, I had my 4x12, and the first thing is 4x12 is not cool to lug around from my living room, the second floor, down to the car. And I actually had this cabinet as the first product without having a BluGuitar logo and without having a Kettner logo, anything. This was my private solution, just for myself. And so this was kind of my first non-compromise product. And then doing more of my own band music and touring in clubs, I found out smaller, lighter, better. And I had the vision of tube amps is the best tone. I had my Marshalls, I had my Vox, my Fenders, and I designed some amps with using Kettner and modified my amps. But I could see the pain in sourcing good tubes. You have to test tubes, you have to match tubes, you have to select tubes. And so why use this kind of traditional tube technology, as good as it is, but it's not the foundation of a new technology? And I knew from some of the tests I have done that there is a way to get to the same results not using the traditional tubes, if you understand the phenomena that are created of the tubes in the original tube circuits. And 30 years of doing that made me aware of the key things that all are important into the tube sound. And if you skip one, the magic is not there. You have to have all the aspects. And there's things like zero cross distortion of a overdriven power amp. I'm very much a power amp kind of guy. Preamp is as important, but most people think, oh, the overdrive comes from the preamp, and that's everything. No, it's the whole combination, and I like amps that feel spongy and react to your playing. And then with these amps, everything is important. It is the front end, it is the power amp, and the more mystical chaos circuitries we have, the more alive they get, and the more you can work the tone with your playing. So that's basically.
So let's go a little bit deeper on that too, because you've been a player for a long time, you've been a designer for a long time, and as you know, there is no shortage of products, whether it's from digital modeling, whether it's from obviously tube amps, or anything that's relatively in between in terms of all of its claims. But that obviously didn't scratch the itch for you, because you were continually looking to innovate and still are, with teasers of upcoming products that are going to be coming out later in the year. But what is it about the BluGuitar products in particular that, in a market that is clearly flooded with everything that anybody could really ever imagine, that really starts to set BluGuitar apart from those?
Well, there's tons of great sounding products. You can buy some digital products and they sound great. And the audience might not notice the difference. But me growing up on playing tube amps, I miss the feel with these mainly digital products. They don't interact with the speaker like the old school tube amp does. You know, there's a I feedback or current feedback that works in the power amp section. That's kind of a back and forth interaction of the speaker to the power amp stage, things like that. For me, it is like playing a real acoustic drum kit versus an electronic drum kit. A mic'd up acoustic kit sounds probably not that different from a great electronic drum kit, but the feel for the player is totally different. And that's what the BluGuitar approach is. I'm totally, it's called tone innovation. So the tone is the old school tone. And I don't compromise there. And this is why I had to found my own company, because I was aware that I have a few visions and thoughts that I don't want to compromise. And I've been there having hard times discussing with people when I was a freelance guy with Jürgen Gettner, to do a non-compromise approach, because you can invest a lot of money with not knowing the results. Being my own boss now, I take the risk myself. And being old enough with all these experiences from the past, I feel confident that I can get there. And back to the difference in the products is there are so many great products. We live in the golden age of products these days. You can get good products at any price point, and so nobody should complain about that. But the BluGuitar thing is you get the old school tube, real deal feel and tone in a modern package. That this fits in your gig bag. You can do fly rigs, you can travel easily. And this is, my customers are people that are pros. A lot of really professional people play my products, because rental gear is always, can be a surprise.
Questionable.
Yep. And with this universal power, any power outlet on this planet will make this amp sound exactly the same. So you know exactly what you're getting. You have consistency, and you have the tone quality. And I think that's my niche that I try, to establish. And I'm around for 10 years, and going strong.
I think that's the key. I mean, I think you've found a way to crack the code. Because for years, what we would do is, if you were lucky enough to try really good tube amplifiers and turn them up and get power amp and all of that, not a lot of people have the opportunity to do that, whether it's on a big stage or wherever. And so what we would do is we would find smaller versions of those things, and we would accept the fact that they were convenient and they were light, but they didn't sound that great.
Yeah.
Now you're thinking, well, I want the convenience, but it has to sound good first.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the hardest thing to overcome, I would imagine.
Yeah, and there's another aspect also. My amps are 100 watts, and I can scale them down to like 150 milliwatts to get the power amp saturation. So my amps are capable of being the old school stadium filling power, or the club, and I can adapt to the situation. And I believe that comes from my player background. When I would choose a 20-watt tube amp, it would not be enough for me. I mean, it's definitely fine for some blues guys.
In terms of headroom?
Headroom. I occasionally I play different amps myself just for the sake of it, and knowing where I am with my products, and I know how it feels to play an amp with a certain wattage, and I know how it feels if I play my amp in my band, or a Marshall, one of mine special ones.
Yeah.
I'm a bit nerdy when it comes to these amps.
But I think too, that's something that I think a lot of people are. A lot of us grew up liking the sound of preamp distortion, like you said, because it heaped on the gain, and it's great for around the house, and it makes it easier to play more quickly. But I think when you're talking about power stage
Saturation.
overdrive, saturation, which is achieved at volume, typically.
Yeah.
You're playing the amplifier at that point.
Exactly.
Could you give us some examples of that?
I can even give you an example of the vintage channel here, as even the preamp already has a little sagging curve, like a vintage amp driven into saturation, and it's. I can show you how dynamic this thing is.
Cleans right up.
And this is talking volume now.
Yeah, it's not blowing us out.
Yeah. And so for me, one of the realities is if you play whatever in an orchestra or something, which I had, and there's a little violin next to you, I can't do the.
You can't blow her out.
No, I mean you have to be polite and try to. And for me, this is one aspect where I can get a rich tone even at the lowest volume. On the other hand, if I have to fill the stage, I put this thing on 7 or towards 10, and I move some air. And these are two realities in my life, in my playing, that I have to be able to cover.
And can you isolate that first aha moment where you thought, okay, we've got this?
Yeah, and this was actually the starting point for BluGuitar, because I teamed up with an engineer that is really a genius. I know things I can mod tube amps on that level, but I'm not an electronic genius. But I'm aware of the facts and the factors needed for this tone. And I had a challenge for this guy because he was getting on my nerves. and I came up I gave him the hardest challenge, and I didn't hear from him back for almost a year. And then he came back and showed me the thing that I was asking for. And I was in shock, because this is the foundation of what I'm doing here. And this was kind of one of those critical components in that tube sound replica without having the real old tubes. And we know there's many great overdrive pedals, and we see LED clipping and diode clipping and hard clipping and soft clipping, and there's all these pedals. This is all aspects of it. But when you look at amplifiers, like my beloved amplifiers where all the stages are cooking. Just for example, I have a Fender Tweed Deluxe 57, original 52nd. You play one note, the voltage drops, which makes the headroom lower, so the power amp breaks up. But at the same time, the preamp is connected, so that, and since there's a filtering going on, all the stages clip different notes at different points in different dynamic situations. So complex. I'm aware of all that. And if you have a regular, let's say, overdrive pedal, it's a very static thing. It's a linear, more or less linear thing.
Yeah. And
one thing that I learned about the tube sounds that I love the most is gain stacked stages being stacked. So it's not only one stage that does the sound, it's several stages. It's like good old Jimi Hendrix, he cranked his Marshalls and he put the fuzz face in front of it. No? So and this is overtones created by the pedal into an amp that is full. Yeah. And that's the magic to me.
So give me a little clarification too, because maybe I'm hearing this wrong or overcomplicating it too, but the sound of what you're going for in terms of response is different than the typical digital modeling algorithm
Yeah.
that kicks out?
A good tone. They're kicking out a good tone, but it is. I don't get the response from it, and
It's more reactive. It's more organic. It's more
exactly because first it's all analog. So all analog means there is no conversion. I know digital technology is getting better every day, and the conversion has been improved a lot. But still, conversion is a conversion, and you need at least two, because the speaker is analog and the guitar is analog. So you have two conversions minimum. And then the conversion brings in latency. And, you know, a little latency is not a problem, but it all adds up. You have
you feel it.
Yeah, you feel it. I feel it. I'm very sensitive to it. I grew up with that. No latency playing. But just think about, you have a wireless system for your guitar that brings latency. And then if you have a digital solution, that brings latency. And it can add up to the point where it's like, ooh. I have friends working with digital products, and I'm very sensitive. I come to their studio and say, hey guys, and sometimes it's not their modeling device, it's the studio monitors on top of that, you know? So they keep their modelers, but change the monitors to feel better because they like the convenience of their modelers. So, but in the end, this is not happening with my products because there is zero latency.
And I noticed even just in the short bit that you were playing there, the dynamics were there.
Yeah.
You know, just backing off. And so that's where latency really will cripple you, is when you really want to back off and have that dynamic shift. Even if someone else isn't hearing it out in the audience, you are. And that's going to react in how you play.
Absolutely.
And, you know.
And for me, being connected to the guitar tone is the magic of the electric guitar to me. I mean, you know, what is it? The electric guitar is not a synthesizer. It is not a linear thing to me. I mean, the world of the electric guitar is so huge. We can play jazz with, we can play blues, we can play funk, rock, metal, any style, and they all have their different colors within that thing. But what excites me the most, and I think that goes for a lot of genres, is being connected to the instrument. You become one with your tone, and then you forget about being there. What I found out about modelers why is I overplay, because they have no dynamics, so I have nothing to care about. It's like a car with 500 horsepower. It's like, boop, and then accident, because I'm too fast.
I hope not. Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
It's maybe great for people that never experienced it, but I want that old school
Connection, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
So now with such a comprehensive backstory and background on the brand and on the products, can you kind of start to dig into the Mercury maybe a little bit for us?
Sure. I mean, the basic concept of this is, as I said, lightweight, 1.2 kilograms, 100 watts universal power, 4 channels. So some people use it on their pedal boards as a clean platform amp. Choose the clean, the clean channel, and there's your nice and clean tone. It can also break up. Think of this volume just like a Fender amp. The Fender amps, they are clean, maybe up to half, some even only to 3, depending on the guitar. And then they do something weird. I wanted to recreate that here as well. So it's called volume, but think of it like a volume on a Fender. If you want to clean, make sure the settings are not too high. If you want to have a slightly saturated thing, as I do, you can go up to 10. And I mean, this is Les Paul. Let's put everything on. There's a little dirt. If I go back here, I have my master volume.
Sure.
And there's all clean headroom as much as you like. That's so.
So if I can interject with that clean channel, did you have a particular Fender in mind? Is it kind of a mishmash of a number of different Fenders and the properties and attributes that you liked from all of them?
Well, I do have a little collection of Fender amps. I have maybe one of my most go-to Fender amps is a 64 Super Reverb. And that's maybe the one that inspired me the most. I use references sometimes. I have A/B switching system when I do sound design. I'm not claiming this to be exactly that amp.
No, but it's absolutely in that ballpark for sure.
I mean, it's like, yeah. And then there's some other Fender amps like my Princeton, and but somehow in that ballpark. This is, my 3 Fender amps. I have non-tweed Fender amps. They give me a feel for, this is what I like for clean, and this is what I get out of the Mercury clean channel. There is on the side we do have what we call the custom controls. There's a tone for that clean channel, and if it's all the way up, it's brighter. So maybe more like silver face. In the middle, it's more black face, and on the other side, it's a bit more tweed. That's too much, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you want that spankiness, and sometimes you want more
grind.
Yeah, more grind. Versus.
But you're really hearing it in the mids.
Yeah. I didn't switch the guitar.
Right.
I just turned this little knob here from one side to the other, and anything in between. And these side knobs is more than just a roll of treble. I switch from 2 different voicings and have anything in between. I blend like 2 extreme voicings, and this goes for the clean channel, for the classic, and the modern channel. The vintage channel is kind of my foundation of everything. So this is how I designed AMP1 and how I see AMP1. I use the vintage channel as my starting point, and then, I match all the other channels to the vintage channel.
Oh, okay.
But that's just me, and this is how I designed it.
That's one way to work it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many ways to work AMP1. I've seen people doing very different approaches with this, and if it works, it works. And here's the vintage channel. On the vintage channel, I use this more or less as my vintage Marshall channel, and it's in between, again, my 3, 4, 5, 10 Marshalls that I have at home,
Who's counting?
which I kept, and the other ones I sold. And see, this is another aspect. I bought all these vintage Marshalls because this one has that bite, and this one is a little smoother, and they're both 50-watt plexis, and I had to keep them both. The reason for keeping them, they are actually different, and the technical reason is tolerances.
Okay.
With this, I use tolerances. This goes into less than 1 dB tolerance of the frequency curve when we measure the production what comes out of production. It's within that span. So I can definitely make sure that any AMP1 sounds like the next one. The biggest tolerance we get from the tone controls. And of course, you can still...
Well, different pots do have different values, for
Yeah.
sure. And this leads me to ask, so there are tubes in these?
Yeah, there is a nano tube, which is a sub-miniature tube.
Yes.
And the good thing about this tube is I can definitely tell you if there's any issue with the amp, it's not the tube. Everybody goes, it must be the tube. It's not the tube. We have sold many amps worldwide, and we have them working on any kind of conditions, stages, and everything. They're hard soldered to the PCB, so there is no contact issues with like sockets and stuff. And the lifespan of that tube will outlive us. And it's still a high plate voltage tube, and it's warm.
I noticed that, you've got a little fan in the back there too. I mean, so it's acting like a living, breathing tube amp, but without so many of the headaches that come along with your traditional tube amp.
And this being a pedal amp, being on the pedalboard, and pedalboards are on the stage, and maybe there's a subwoofer. I have seen these amps dancing while me being on stage, because, the bass drum, and I can do this like for the next 3 months and still play my amp. I can prove that this tube can be microphonic, but I have to go like, wait a minute, all the way up, and can we hear it?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
But this is master like almost on full.
So it's pretty sensitive,
yeah,
picking up everything.
Yeah, so but it's, trust me, if I would play now, it's like we see the doctor.
Let's not do that. Well, Russ is next to the cabinet, so it's fine.
My
with
left
me.
ear, yes.
Yeah.
But that just begs the question, and I know this sounds kind of stupid, but I'm not afraid to do that, as we all know. But so why would anyone toy with a traditional tube amp anymore? If this gives you all that you love about those things and combines the convenience of it.
Well, there's a problem with this because you don't see much. If you are used to be on stage with a full stack, there is something that secures you. You're standing in front of a wall, Ingwie Malmsteen style, or you know what I mean.
Sure.
And to get accomplished with such a form factor and new experience, it's like, is this really true? People, my customers, professional customers, I have. Of all genres, British punk bands, Saga, Jennifer Batten, so many different jazz guys, metal guys. I even had people. That's one of the nicest stories ever. The Sweden Rock Festival. There was a summer festival in Europe. And there were British bands, Swedish bands playing, and as they all were flying in, the only amp at that festival was BluGuitar amps.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
It's like, and the bands didn't even know each other, but I had connection to some of the bands because I don't know all my artists and I don't know all my users, but then they told me, and they were proud sharing the pictures of, this band is having that as well. And so you have to get, you have to make your rig with it. And then, of course, at the beginning, it's like, maybe it's true, maybe not. The moment you have felt it in the band, it's the moment where you think, aha.
Yeah.
And then going back is like, oh, maybe not. And this is what I can hear from most of my users. And the history that we have with BluGuitar, for me, it's fantastic because I have access to some of my heroes. I mean, like Uli John Roth, former guitarist of the Scorpions. Here's another picture. He was touring with his band and Jennifer Batten and Andy Timmons. And I just met Andy at the NAMM show.
Yeah.
And
He's a terrible guy.
He's the best.
He's so sweet. And they did a tour, and I have a picture of that where I think there were 8 amp-1s on stage and only 1 Mesa Boogie for Andy.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And Andy was the exception, but Uli plays 2 amp-1s. The other guitar players play 3 because he makes all these kind of harmony things with all the guitars. He bought 5 amps from me because he simply told them, you play this now, especially for fly gigs.
Oh yeah.
So I'm very proud of talking to that I could create products that make people happy.
And that's the thing too. I mean, most people, the old adage is if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Take that, add a guitar player to the mix, and it's even harder. They're so skeptical of something new and different and the change. So when you convert somebody who's used to doing what you're used to doing, old school tube amps, and when they play that, and then you see it on their face. It's like when you watch anyone playing guitar. Sometimes I don't watch them play guitar. I want to see what their face is like. You could see that they're enjoying it. And that's what I hear when you're doing that. I think if someone tries that and they're used to the traditional rig, they're going to try this and go, why was I doing it? So why was I making it so hard on myself?
Well, as much as that stigma is 100% accurate and correct, I think in recent 6 to 12 months, it's going at such a rapid pace where guitarists are now making that shift to seeing that these different technologies that are coming in these small footprints are making a significant impact in terms of the feel and the sound.
Exactly. I think guitar players now have to be open because the new reality is when you show up with a 4x12 Marshall at your local club,
good luck.
It's not like you're welcome anymore. The sound guy tells you you're too loud, even you haven't played a single note.
Sure.
Just by the cosmetics that you put on stage. And honestly, for me, that's a problem because rock music needs to have a certain volume. I see it as a band has a drummer, and you connect to that, and this is how AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, and all the bands worked. And if you start to change that in a way, you lose also the magic of the interaction of the playing. In an orchestra, everything is balanced. In a rock band, everything is balanced. And if you start to go, okay, we make it humpa humpa dance and background music, then you shouldn't be a rock musician anymore.
Yeah.
Then hire a jazz guy or some
Not that there's anything wrong with jazz.
No, I love it.
Okay.
And I personally enjoy it much more listening to jazz. I enjoy playing rock myself. But when I go somewhere else, I don't want to hear the rock players. Unless it's Andy Timmons.
Right. I think it goes for all of
We're
us.
in that camp.
Now, I want to hear more of this, but before we do, I do have another question because I think it's another pain point for this. So you talked about the connection, right? That was one big pain point for these type of products. Second one is many times you plug in with a band and then what happens? You're like, oh man, it sounded so good in my rehearsal space when I was playing by myself and I dialed in my sound and I felt really good. Now you added the bass, you added the drummer, the keyboard player, the second guitarist, the singer. I'm lost in the mix. I'm not cutting through.
Well, this is, AMP1 has a 3-band tone control only. And I put it that way. If you're lost, use some mids. I'm on 4 now. 5 is the middle position. But if there's more instruments coming in, maybe the more mids you should have. Depends on the band. But it's very clear that the mids are the frequencies that will cut through better. My mids, I show you my tone control is kind of funny because I can make it kaput.
Yeah.
No sound. So if I only have mids, I put the mids on 10. It's already a sound. It's a little bit telephone.
A little boxy, yeah.
A little boxy, but okay. I mean, this is mids all the way up and the rest 0. So as extreme as I can get. So I can fill up the low end and add some bite with the treble. Now going back with the mids.
Yeah, it's all there.
So just get one number higher, and you're back in the business in the band. Yeah.
What about that reverb too?
I was just gonna say, it sounds luscious.
Yeah, it's a reverb.
It's one of those. Yeah.
Wrap it.
Yeah. No, honestly, I know there are so many great reverbs out there in technical terms, because they have a lot of processing powers and they're super lush. I tried to max out a chip that is actually not the greatest performing chip, but that's my kind of thing. I can have even ingredients that are not the most expensive ones, and I still get some character out of it, and I like it. What I have done is a thing that I learned from the good old reverb tank, from the spring reverb tanks and tube-driven ones. Is maybe when you pay attention to the detail, you can listen. It has a slight mid-hump before it goes into the reverb. It's a digital reverb, by the way. This is the only thing digital on
Okay.
and there is also, I would say, a very little clip before the reverb, and that's making a musical noise. If I would compare this to a Lexicon, whatever, plate
PCM,
or something, it is not that quality.
No.
But it's a musical quality in between everything that I personally like. Again, I like the good old spring reverb, and I like plate reverbs. I do have actually 2 original plates at home. The big
Confessions
ones.
of a Gearaholic.
Yeah, it's the EMT 140 or what
Yeah,
is
it's
it?
140.
Yeah, the big one. You know, table tennis size thing.
It has its own room.
Yeah, and that's my preferred studio reverb for my little bit vintagey feel.
Sure.
So and having these sounds in my head, I try to get something out of my chip and see what it gets. And it's musical.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And I think, too, if you try to explain some of these things that we go nuts for as guitar players, guitar sound is almost a series of distortions. And I don't mean distortion like gain, but we're taking a signal. If you listen to a pure, unadulterated, undistorted signal, you go,
It's boring. It's so
we
boring.
want those things. And you might not even, you could see it on a scope and you go, there's where the distortion is, even though it's not a distorted signal. We like all those things that take a signal and morph it into what we consider musical.
Exactly.
It's not sterile. It's got some soul to it. But if you explain it to someone else, they go, I just want pure, clean signal. That's perfect for other things.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
here-
if you are an engineer, if you try to track a violin, you are more into like keep it neutral and transparent. But to enrich the guitar, I mean, what is a guitar? This is a vibrating string, and the first thing is the overtones you get from the material, and the next thing is like the resonance you get with the body interaction, then the coloration with the pickups, and nothing is neutral. I mean, we love it because
It's lifeless without it.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah, and the wilder, the more character it's got, the more exciting it is.
Sure.
And I get lost in discovering the tone, because I play some amps and I think, oh wow, it's like a good red wine or anything.
Sure.
you can taste.
Yeah, and it's so hard to describe when you say the feel of something. That's the key. I mean, when someone's going to watch this on YouTube, they're going to say, okay, it sounds pretty good. In this room,
Yeah.
it sounds to me like a lit up tube amp without blowing my head off, unless I want to blow my head off, which
Sure.
I could
Yeah,
do.
it's
And I think we should get into more of the functionality of what this does. Not just the sounds. You've got an effects loop. I mean, talking about all the features of what this does, I don't feel like I would be giving something up. If I were to gig with something like this, I'd be like, it's everything you want without the back break, And so to demonstrate some of that, I mean, obviously it sounds wonderful, but I mean, I think you could go a whole tutorial about all the things it does.
I make a quick round here. So clean channel, then there's the boost. The boost, again, can be adjusted on the side. And the boost internally is a 2-stage boost. Again, when I crank it, I can saturate the second stage of the boost.
Okay.
And the boost can saturate anything in the preamp afterwards. Talking about your theory of whatever.
I do have several theories of whatever.
Whatever.
No, but I can see you getting excited about it.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, the recipe of a good tone is adding a little spice in every stage. And so the boost by itself can do that already.
Okay.
So even if I have my clean channel all the way down, the boost can on the edge of breakup. Now, now getting the clean channel cranked. That's a clean channel, super low.
I mean, it's singing. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to get it clean, turn it down. But for me, the important point is it is there, and you have to adjust it to exactly the point where you want to feel it, where you want to hear it. Some other products, they are simple to operate because they are just clean and you make them louder. With my products, I have to admit, it's sometimes a little bit more complicated, but once you understand my theory, it's like I have all that extra range.
Yeah.
Just move back from that. It will clean up, no worries.
Right.
Just go back to 5 and you are totally clean.
I'm enjoying getting in your head with this. So the boost, did you have anything as a foundation that you kind of started off as your
Boost?
Your starting point, a piece of gear in particular of what you were kind of
Range
chasing
master.
after?
My boost is not, there is not a pedal exactly like that. There is a few pedals, again, that I like, that inspired me. One of them is, I think, Church of Tone 50. What is it,
The
Love
COT.
pedal?
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm a boost nut. I have
More confessions.
yeah. It's like every booster focuses on little different things in the frequency and the dynamics. So I have a German thing called Rammstein, who sadly passed away 2 years ago, Thomas Blug, and he had a tube booster, which is basically like an input stage of an M kind of thing, cathode follower circuitry. That's another boost that I enjoy a lot. Let me think about it. That you can do the clone thing as well, but
It all played its part to bring it to where you...
yeah. I mean, I get inspired, but I can copy, but when I do my own products, I don't copy. With my upcoming AMP-X, I'm able to replicate things one-to-one, but I'm not doing this on the AMP-1.
Yeah.
And AMP-1...
They're inspirational.
It's
things.
inspirational, and the AMP-1 is, in the same ballpark, but I'm not claiming it's exactly that thing. I show you the vintage channel. We had that real quick in comparison to the classic channel.
I'm sorry, Thomas, is that first switch... Can you walk the first switch there? Are you just chaining channels?
Yes. The first one is clean overdrive, and then I can select one of the 3 overdrive channels to go between. And then I have a boost, and then I have a reverb.
Okay.
That's one way to operate AMP-1. But you could also store all these settings, your favorite combinations. Let's say you want clean with boost and reverb, and then you memorize it on the first foot switch for your clean sound. Then you do your AC/DC vintage, no reverb, no boost on the second one. And then you have whatever your Gary Moore, Soldano, as much as you
How
can.
do you toggle that between being 3 preset buttons or doing a channel switch,
Okay.
a boost, and a reverb?
So let's simply program. This is the sound that I like. I press and hold this button and wait for the blinking. The next button I will press will recall that setting. So let's do the vintage without the boost and without the reverb. Press and hold. This is now programming the AMP-1. So
You're going to second button.
So put it there, and then I mentioned whatever modern
Gary
with
Moore,
everything,
yeah.
and do the same thing here. So, and now how to recall that? You have to switch it off, press and hold this button, And now we should have clean.
Now you're in preset mode.
Wow.
Yeah, that's preset
And
mode.
it's locked in
Yeah.
until you decide
and
to
now
change it.
you can, that's another thing that's very important. You know, you're on a festival and the power drops. You go back and you are exactly where you have been before.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so this will be memorized forever until you go back for the normal mode. So how to go back for the normal mode, switch it off, press and hold this button.
Right, same.
And then we are back into my standard mode.
Channel, boost, reverb.
Yeah. That's option number 2. I have 5 options. Okay, sorry guys. But I mean, it's obviously this the self-contained option as it is. There is a foot switch socket here, so you can have an additional standard foot switch that will do the job of these 2. With this option, you can also have the presets, and then you have a switch that goes to clean. And then you can have your 3 overdrive settings here,
Okay.
and you have your clean channel on the external foot switch.
Yep.
And you have the boost on the second button of your external foot switch. So that's the
You
next.
can expand to the next
expand.
level of.
Yeah. Then we have that MIDI 1 adapter for the same socket here.
Yep.
And mine, it's not only a cable. It looks like a cable, but there is a MIDI little interface inside the 5-pole plug of the cable. If you open that, there's a optocoupler and a few resistors inside the cable. So I'm all about small as can be. Plug that in, and then the amp knows that the amp listens to MIDI commands. And then you can use whatever MIDI controller to do that. So I thought of different kind of people. You know, I have blues players. They are not even interested. If they hear the word MIDI,
They already wrote it off.
So it is written here, but only for those who know where it is. So that it's capable. It's not like, So I try to be traditional in a way, but I also want to give you the options.
Sure.
And I noticed that too. So, for instance, I mean, it's got great. If you're a traditional guitar player, you got great clean sound, you got great distortion sounds, you've got great boost, you've got reverb, and then of course, if you want to add your own effects pedals, you've got a loop.
Looped, and the loop can be switched from serial to parallel. On the button, there is a loop level switch from -10 to +4 dB. So even my lousy DD2, which I love because David Gilmour used it, can be used with this amp. I just had to reduce the level to 150 millivolts for that pedal. Otherwise, it is a old school pedal that needs to run on that low level. Yeah, so that's all with the effects loop. That can also be memorized with the foot switches. So you could have the delay popping in with your one whatever lead sound,
right,
and the effects loop, and then the AC/DCs will automatically cut this off. So this is it's options. And hey, by the way, we do have an online knowledge base. It's called BluGuipedia.
Catchy.
I didn't came up with a name. No, it was my internet fans. They came up. I just said this is the BluGuitar knowledge base, and they said it's BluGuipedia. And I thought, oh my god. And then I said, okay. And all this information is there, available 24/7. There's a search bar. You whatever topic you have, it's on that website, because at the beginning we had social media groups like on Facebook and other platforms, and then all this very important information goes down the timeline and it disappears. And I hated that, because then I got the same questions again.
Over and over.
Yeah, and the people that actually shared their knowledge of combining this with, for example, Helix HX effects, And there's tricks. Sometimes this MIDI channel has to be switched off, and that this was all there and it was gone. And then I decided we have to get a knowledge base, which is BluGuipedia. And this platform tells you all these details. And so I try to have a simple product, and there's always that second layer where I can show you more. And talking about that, this is the one control, a very small pedal, and this gives you access to a few internal features that you don't see on the AMP1 as it is. But let me show you what it is expanding the tones and features. For instance, this is my clean channel. Let's put the vintage channel on all the way up. So it's like the rock. Okay. I have a gain control here, which is the second gain. So this is a physical gain that I dial in here, and this is like a gain inside the circuitry that now reduces the amount of gain. And so that's the bluesy side of the same channel. And just crank it here. So, and of course I can go anywhere in between. And this thing here. So in technical terms, here I have a treble bleed and here I have no treble bleed. So when I decrease the gain here, I get more treble. And with this, I change the gain structure internally without having treble bleed on a different part of the circuitry. And this can be used with any of the channels. You can have this like a boost pedal that you program as another boost. But this thing can do more. Let me show you one more thing on this pedal here.
And again, I think just as you're even showing us with the Mercury, the overarching another feature point as far as a selling point in this model is it's digitally controlled, but for analog. It's digitally controlled analog.
Yeah, and the feel for this here is analog because it's a pedal that I use with now it's a patch cable.
Which feels like home for people.
Yeah, you don't have to think about digital control here, even though it is digital control. Right. You know, it's just a pedal that I have.
But we're getting all the feel and juice of something that we love as an analog animal. But with the functionality of digital, I mean, you know, it really is kind of marrying the best of the two worlds.
I tried to marry it in this niche, which is my mindset. You know, I do understand the power of digital. I recorded, I produced, I use plugins myself, and there is a beauty about that as well. But being a guitar player, I have a different feeling. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and if I need to, I can work with my laptop and my plugins. I have recorded stuff with that, and even the record company told me, "This is your 64." Fender Super Reverb. And
just nod your head.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
But I think that's the thing. You know, when we talk about skepticism and people, the initial fear is that, you know, hey, look, I don't want to buy a guitar on the website. I want to go to a store and pick it up. And that's becoming increasingly harder to do. So you provide an avenue like we do. We say, hey, you could try this. I would imagine that anyone who's watching this and is skeptical of it should try it.
Yes.
And I feel like once it's in their hands, they're going to go, I'm not returning this.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You know, and that's a risk for me to say as someone who's dealing. We don't want returns. But I feel like if someone bought that, they would keep it. And just hearing it and seeing the functionality of it, I mean, there's no weak point.
Can you give us a Iridium as well? We haven't even touched on that one yet.
I just give you the modern channel of this, but because we are missing this one, and I give you gain. Then we can swap to this, and then you can hear the difference. Okay, this is a modern channel on the Mercury. Gain.
There it is.
And at the volume he's at right now, too. It's crazy.
So that is Mercury as it gets. So now let's go and swap.
While you're swapping, again, I think that the overwhelming response is like how much sustain you're getting at such a low volume here right now.
It's the quality of the sound. It just
absolutely.
It's got that knock. It's got that karang. It's got that all the things we love. But I'm sitting here and I'm going.
We can still talk over.
There's no ear fatigue. It's just lovely.
Yeah. And that is I think the important thing. It is capable of getting the full spectrum in volume and tone at any volume.
Right.
Because that's our new reality.
Yeah,
you know, when you have a family at home, how loud
it's not even my family.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I apologize.
And for those who want to try out the AMP1s, we have a lot of sound samples on that knowledge base, BluGuipedia, with video clips where I have done a lot of A/B comparisons. When I go to some places and find interesting amps, and I always have an A/B switch with me, and try, oh, this is a great sound, and let's see how close I can get with an AMP1.
Yeah.
And so there's tons of videos, and for people that want to do whatever, BB King or Iron Maiden or you name it, Metallica.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but also an analog thing that I like is these good old overlays that you put here, and then you have the pickup style and the side controls, how you set those.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and this gives you
great starting points for those.
Starting points. We all know guitars are different, players are different. Some have a hard attack, others have a soft attack. So this is only a starting point, but it gets you somewhere. And when these amps are more flexible than you think, so you have to discover them. And I have people, that's another thing I have to mention here, is like, I have many AMP1 customers that bought it as a pedal amp on their Pedalboard, and they started with their favorite pedals, and they love their pedals, and they use one of the overdrive channels, and then they have the clean channel as a pedal platform. And then 3 years later, there's no pedals anymore. It's just the thing, because they found the way how to, well, get their beloved sounds out of the AMP1 just by itself.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the Iridium. What is the difference? The Iridium is a more so the Iridium is a more modern amp, I would say, which is the clean channel is I designed that it can have a very sparkling sound with humbuckers, and even for metal guys, because the metal guys, they have very mid-focused pickups. And when they need a clean tone once in a while, with this one pickup, they have no chance. So one of the challenges for me was to get like a almost hi-fi-ish clean tone for those guys. But I can get it also tone control on the side, more classic. So what is different is the boost. This boost has more mid-hump than on the Mercury. Again, it's something people enjoy. I would say this is like half the mid-hump of a Tube Screamer.
I was going to ask, okay.
Yeah, the Tube Screamer is that classic 700 hertz hump. And there's a good reason why many people love that, because it works. But I thought if you have all the 100% mid hump of a tube screamer, then get a tube screamer.
Right.
And the Iridium does not need a pedal in front of it to be tight, but it brings some extra flavor. Okay, clean channel. Let's start with a vintage overdrive channel here, and that's. You can hear it's tight. Yeah, it's metal, and with this extra.
Whoa.
There's a gate built in. By the way,
No
the same.
kidding.
That's the same here. And I made a function that the gate switches from metal to soft when engaging the reverb. So I can.
Okay.
So that's the metal setting, you know.
It's going all the way now.
So you could do your Rammstein on there. Yeah. You can't see it, but there's a little mosh pit going on over there. Jake, sit down. Yeah.
The funny thing is, the Rammstein guitar player, he got one of those. And I found out in our system because he actually left his cell phone number and address. And I thought, don't give you the address.
Where's this going, Tom?
Yeah. No, it's like this address is very expensive in Berlin.
Oh.
And I think, who is this guy? And it's him. So I called up the cell phone number and I said, hey, this is Thomas Blug. He said, the amp guy. He knew me.
All right.
That's funny.
And we had a super nice conversation.
See, that's different than I would have done. I would be like, do you like a mid hump? And then I would hang up. Yeah. Or just half a hump, really, which these days is really all you have time for. But that, again, that shows, like you were saying at that festival, the fact that almost all these acts could use it, adapt it to what they were doing, and not look back. Like, that's my sound. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What else does the Iridium have? I mean, there's probably a lot of other stuff under the hood.
I show you the other channels. Just so this is the vintage channel. I would say this is even like a Van Halen.
No gate.
Nice.
Something
No,
like
but
that.
it's there. The brown sound's there, and I think a lot of people don't realize, especially with copying a classic Van Halen tone, is how not heavily overdriven it is. And then when he would back off, that was his
It's
clean
clean.
sound. Yeah, with a humbucker, and it was
Yeah.
like, there it is.
Okay, classic channel. Well, we have a tone control for this one. On counterclockwise, it's a nice lead tone. Hot rodded Marshall again, kind of thing. But then, when I crank it, let me show you. It's getting really nasty.
Yeah, and those are unpotted pickups too, so we're gonna get
is.
that. That's not
58.
that hum you're hearing isn't the unit,
Yeah,
but
yeah. We forgot to switch the recording
and there's
out.
more.
So we only had the speaker for now, and the cable is a little short.
Damn that Velcro.
Here we go. Okay, now.
Only if you could only play, that would be.
Well, I think that's a testament to it as well. I think yes, you're obviously a talented
Sounds
guitar
amazing.
player, but sometimes I think that's what gear like this is for. When you know the sound you're trying to get, and you try it with the limitations of some of the digital products, even with IRs, you go, it's not fully representing what I want from it. And so having talent is obviously helpful,
100%.
but it also, you're bringing that sound out because you know how to get it, and it's there.
Yeah. Again, for me, the difference is in the dynamic, and even the metal guys, it's like you have more fun, working with the beat. I'm not a metal player, but what I learned from the guys is you have to lock with the band, and for me, the dynamic curve of any sound, if it's blues or metal, it's like you have to find that sweet spot where you're riding on the wave. And as I said before, with some modelers, it's like it's so linear. It's always the same. So I don't get a feel.
Right.
I don't get a feel. It's like, for me, it's boring.
But that's again, you just unlock it's fun, and sometimes everyone has a different idea of what fun is.
Sure.
So that's the beauty of something like this, is you dial it into what you, and your ears go, okay, that's it, and it's in there, and I see you having fun with it.
Sure, and I'm having fun with your guitar.
Thank you.
And my amps. I have also fun with other amps that I do like. The good thing about my amps, I still like them.
Of course.
I have done amps that I hated afterwards. I mean, I'm in the industry for long enough, so I can say it. I mean, I have created amps that I still enjoy, or products, and there are products where I thought, somebody forced me to give up too early. That's why I have my own company now. And with my products now, it's like, okay, I can imagine this and that. I'm always in the future, next level. But it's like I can look back and say, would I change anything like now? Is it needed?
Yeah.
No. And if somebody has a criticism, I'm open for that. Please let me know. That's the only way I can learn.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm speechless.
Okay, and then there's the modern channel, which means now we're going in.
That was a little chunky.
Yeah, it's chunk as can be, but it can also be sweeter, as we have those side controls here. Same channel, like give it a little reverb. Yeah.
And you're getting that harmonic too.
Yeah, that's the thing electric guitar can do. And I think nothing better than, it's like Santana. You are on stage and then, you find your harmonics. Isn't that a magic moment? Isn't that the moment why we all play guitar?
Yes.
It is. You cannot force it, but when it happens, and if you have the right guitar and maybe amp in the right situation, you have that moment of joy that gives you back all the hours of practicing and getting there.
Yeah.
And the more I still gig, even though I have my company and stuff. I would even pay for it. I'm so lucky that people pay to see me, but I have so much fun.
Yeah.
No, it comes through. I think one last topic that would be good to transition is also to the third product, but also touches upon maybe the Mercury and the Iridium, which is the output. So the cabs, we're going through a BluGuitar
This
cab.
is a FatCab. So this is my personal preference cab as being a blues rock. I mean, I'm not a super blueser, but I'm a rock player that is not in the modern rock. So this was replacing my 4x12 for myself even before BluGuitar existed, and I still love my cabinet, this FatCab. So I do have other cabinets that are great, but for me, it's my personal preference. And I gigged with this the last probably 17, 18 years.
That's a pretty good testament to...
Yeah, in any situation, outdoor festivals, small clubs, where you have to squeeze in and whatnot. And I was always happy.
So what's in there, if I may ask?
It is my own design speaker.
Shocking.
Yeah, the way how I approach cabinets is, I have, of course, a goal that I want to achieve. And my goal with this cabinet was, I want to have my sound coming from a 4x12 in smaller. And I found out the oversized 112 with a portation is what is giving that to me. Then I was using Celestion speakers. I had greenbacks in there. I had vintage 30s in there. And then when I founded BluGuitar, I killed greenbacks because I love greenbacks. 25 watts with a 100 watt amp. I bought a bunch of Recone kits, but I was totally sure that I cannot offer this as a product. So I came up with a speaker that handles 60 watt continuous and 120 watt peak power. You can kill it with an amp1, but it's not done so easily.
Okay.
If the impedance is matching, this is an 8 ohm cabinet. If you put that on the 16 ohm output of the amp1, you can kill it, because we have really 100 watts on the 16 ohm output. And an 8 ohm speaker is the load tells the amp, oh, easy peasy, I throw out 150 watts. And that's killing the speaker. I have done a video where I literally killed the speaker wearing some ear protection and doing it. You can watch that. If it's properly connected, it lasts a few minutes.
But I think that's such an important part of the tonal recipe is the cabinet and the speaker.
Absolutely.
I think so many people miss that.
Absolutely. I totally agree. For me, the cabinet is the adapter between the amp and your ear, and it's 50%, I would say,
of the equation.
Yeah. If it's the wrong speaker for you, even the best amp in the world will not do the job for you. And that's why I offer a bunch of different cabinets. And I have to admit, there are some other great cabinets out there. You know, I'm not alone on the planet, but my approach with the cabinets is as small, as lightweight, just like the amp, as possible. So I try to have sometimes slightly thinner wood, but use like bracings to stabilize it. And I check everything, and I have my own speakers voiced to my cabinets. You know, a lot of companies go for vintage 30s, great speakers, but is this the best choice for this cabinet? Maybe not, because this cabinet has a particular way of resonating, and so I can maybe use such a speaker as a starting point and then tweak it to be perfect with this housing. So that's the FatCab. Then we have the NanoCab, which is this one.
Nice and light, huh?
Yeah. Wait a minute, I just have the
gonna
guitar
hold that?
too much. I
You
hand
drop
the
it, you
guitar.
have to buy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the NanoCab, and this is actually the new NanoCab. We have two NanoCabs now. The standard NanoCab is this one.
Do you want me to lift it
Looks
up?
the same, just has a different handle.
Because I'm weak.
The NanoCab next to you is using a speaker which also uses a ceramic magnet. This is a 42-ounce magnet. This is a 38-ounce magnet. And the NanoCab that you are sitting close to me, is slightly blues voiced, I would say.
Okay.
and it has a bit more mids.
Maybe like a sweeter low end.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And this is the smallest 1/12 possible. The story about this was very simple. I took I'm a fan of 12-inch. 10-inch is a special case, good for Fender, whatever, But I'm into 12-inch. So I took a 12-inch, put the housing around, and had a movable back wall.
Okay.
So, and I just put a little mark where I liked it. I had other people coming to my place and they had put their marks that they couldn't see mine.
Yeah.
So, and then I was looking and said, okay, this is where it needs to be because we all agreed on the same depth.
It was trial and error, and then you dial it in.
Yeah. And then the next level was
The ports.
the port
Yeah.
to max out what is possible with such a small housing, and that was simply the story of the NanoCab. And then over the last, I think, 3 years, I tried to do another cab which doesn't exist yet. It's a prototype project, and I was experimenting with neodymium speakers, and by accident I got a speaker that I didn't like for the other project, but I put it in a NanoCab and it's like magic. And this is 100 watts, full 100 watts speaker, neodymium. So it's 7 kilograms, not too
nice and
heavy.
light, yeah.
And this speaker has even more low end than the other one. So this cabinet now is for me, I gigged with that, closer to a FatCab, but as small as can be. So my personal preference stays the FatCab, but my second choice for me personally would be that I have people raving on the NanoCab as it is. And
So that job well done.
yeah,
Leave well
all-
enough alone.
yeah, and for me, it's guitar tone is a personal thing, and as you said, the speaker is so important. And there's one thing that I like about speakers. I have selected lightweight membranes. That's why we can sit here, whisper, and still have the full frequency range. If the membrane would be heavier, it would dampen itself. And the other thing is I always try to avoid edge treatment, if possible, which is the case here.
Okay.
And that also helps. There's also little...
All these little
Yeah.
nuances.
Well, and
they add
it's
up.
similar to an acoustic guitar. I mean, you want a nice thin top on an acoustic to the point where it's vibrating in the right. But if it's too thin, you're going to fall apart. And that's the same with a cab. It's an acoustic thing.
I mean, the acoustic guitar is a very good example because the strings don't make noise unless you have a thing that resonates and works with it. And that is what the cabinet is. So it's that important.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And the third cabinet we do have is the TwinCab, a 2x12 cabinet. The trick on that one is it can be horizontal or vertical. And of course, when you put it on the floor, horizontal, it connects to the floor a lot more, so you have tons of low ends. I like it. Some people don't like it. They have to go vertical. And you can twist the logo for each
way for aesthetic purposes.
Yeah, so it looks right.
I know, but again, and we'll leave it with this. I don't see how you could do a version 2 of these things. I feel like it's so well thought of. But I know you have more things
In
you're
the
constantly always
hopper.
thinking, and I just can't wait to see the next thing you come out with.
I know that it's scary.
It is scary, but I implore people who are watching this, if you're thinking about it, to know that yes, love your amps, keep your amps, do all the things you do with them, but this is meant to sit there in your arsenal as a very viable piece of equipment. I mean, it really sounds great.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm happy for every player that has found his tone, and no matter what brand. I'm just offering what I can offer with my thing, and it's the electric guitar. We all have to enjoy that instrument because it's such a great, fun-bringing thing.
Right, of
I mean,
course.
there's nothing better than the electric guitar to me.
I would agree.
So whatever gear makes you happy, I'm happy for you. I'm just trying to offer what I can offer with my approach, and try to make especially the gigging musicians' life easier, because that's what I learned, and I feel like with my background knowledge in the tube history, past with a little bit of digital on top, I can create something that sits in between the worlds and suits the guitar player, which I am myself and still want to be, because it's too much fun.
Well, I think you've conveyed that, and I really appreciate you coming here and explaining it to us, because sometimes it could be a little daunting with something new like this.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Knowing it sounds good, but it's like, I could dial it in now, and I feel like it didn't take very long. I mean,
I think we shall end on that selfless conclusion that you just put out there. Thank you for joining us, Thomas.
Thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
So obviously we want to give a huge shout out to Thomas Blug for coming by today. He gave us a lot of time and gave us a lot of info on his gear. If you like content like this, be sure to like and subscribe, and to check out BluGuitar gear, come see us at AmericanMusical.com.